I know that many of you are bewildered, afraid and worried, both about your health and also increasingly about your financial future and your jobs. Since I spoke to many of you a week ago today, events have happened at a rapid speed, and we have, to all intents and purposes, closed down large parts of our domestic economy. We have seen the devastation that coronavirus can leave behind if it remains unchecked. Our actions have been driven by an overarching desire to save lives. By staying at home and maintaining social distancing, you will all play your role in suppressing the virus. But there is another equally important element to this. By staying at home now, you are also helping to protect jobs and the economy. In short, the quicker now that we can suppress the virus, the quicker that we can bring about a controlled return to work, and the quicker that we can get our economy functioning again. Over the last week, we have, step by step, removed the uncertainty and the de-risking the chances of coronavirus spreading on construction sites and in retail shops. We have moved to remove uncertainty for those supplying additional domestic services such as painters and decorators. We have removed uncertainty for gardeners and for those in the horticultural industry. As we close down parts of the economy, we must recognise that we need to take further action to support those who, through no fault of their own, are facing an abrupt cessation of their income. On Friday, Tynwald formally approved a number of financial assistance measures, including the COVID-19 welfare benefit, formerly known as the Manx Earnings Replacement Allowance, or MIRA for short, paying £200 per week to those who have lost their job or are unable to earn as a result of the virus. The COVID-19 Salary Support Scheme, paying £280 per week per full-time equivalent employee. I understand the situation that many businesses are in and the desperation to receive this support. However, please be patient. We are working as hard as we can to get processes up and running. Whilst we do this, I urge businesses to reach out to their banks to assist with immediate cash flow issues. I am sure that you will all understand that in delivering these substantial measures, we have to balance the need to help businesses and individuals with their immediate needs against the long-term sustainability of our finances. One consequence of this was the exclusion of certain sectors where we considered that the impact of the economic situation had not been the same or the immediate impact as felt elsewhere. A number of smaller domestic businesses that fall into these excluded categories have written to me describing circumstances that they feel means they should be included within the scope of the support, and I can sympathise with their position. Under the Salary Support Scheme, the Chief Financial Officer has the power to amend the scheme to cover any business if he considers it to be in the best interest of the island's economy. I have asked him to set a process whereby small and medium-sized businesses who currently fall outside the scope of the scheme and who fulfil certain criteria may apply for special consideration. I expect this process to be in place within a matter of days. I announced last week the Coronavirus Business Support Scheme was providing businesses and the self-employed in the most affected sectors with an immediate £3,000 grant to assist with their costs and their fallen income. Following recent announcements, I have extended that scheme to include education, construction and horticulture. We are processing applications for the Coronavirus Business Support Scheme as quickly as we can. The first payments have been made and many more will follow in the coming weeks. I can also announce today that the government will be bringing forward 2 further support packages in the coming days, a scheme to preserve the strategic capacity of the tourist accommodation sector, and one to provide additional support for the fishing industry. More details on these schemes will be announced in the coming days. Even with all these measures, we will not save every business and every job, but we do have safety nets in place. The COVID-19 benefit, or MIRA, is available to provide support, as are the existing welfare benefit schemes. The MIRA will be available from the 6th of April. Those who require assistance immediately have access, of course, to our existing welfare system. People will be able to apply for the MIRA online or by telephone. To provide much needed flexibility during this time, with the appropriate security measures in place, Treasury has introduced processes to allow the acceptance of instructions to pay a person's pension or benefits into the bank or to an appointee by telephone. Extra staff have been allocated to this area to answer calls and emails. However, we are experiencing high levels of demand, so please be patient on the phones. We will answer your call, but it will perhaps take longer than normal. Extending this support from the National Insurance Fund has caused us to reflect and consider the appropriateness of national insurance contributions and the variance in rates that is applied across our society. I intend, if at all possible, to speed up a review of our National Insurance Fund in order to ensure that fairness and equality is put back at the heart of the contributions regime. Of course, some sectors and businesses must remain open by a physical presence on site, and some can remain open by undertaking home working. To all those involved in the food chain, we need you to keep working. You are on the front line, and we salute you. Our manufacturers are now turning their hand to vital parts to support the efforts against coronavirus. We are proud of you, and we need you to keep working. Our banks and financial institutions, many of you are working from home. Thank you. We need you to keep doing that. And in our digital economy, many of you are also keeping global businesses running from your home offices. Please keep going. In general terms, therefore, I remain satisfied that the overall measures that we have brought forward are now sufficient to provide the broad safety net that the economy needs to get through this. There are 4 clear layers of direct support: the salary support scheme, the business interruption grant that can also be accessed by the self-employed, the mirror for anyone who finds himself in any sector out of work, and if all else fails, you will be caught by the existing welfare and benefits system. Last week, I told you that no one will be evicted from their home during this period of crisis. I can now tell you that further support for residents will come from the 7 island banks that offer personal mortgages. Isle of Man Bank, Santander International, HSBC, Barclays, Lloyds, Nedbank Private Wealth International and Cayman National Bank have all agreed to provide a mortgage repayment holiday to existing customers who have fallen into financial difficulties as a result of the coronavirus pandemic. I want to thank them, as I do every company and organisation that is providing support to their customers at this difficult time. In light of these measures, I have, over the last week, thought hard about whether it is appropriate for the government and local authorities to issue the rate demands for this year. And I have concluded that although many are struggling, there are those in the community who are in a position to continue to meet their liabilities. We must keep some money coming in through the system, otherwise our local authorities and indeed our national finances will come under even more pressure. And therefore the rates bills will be issued as normal, but will also contain a letter explicitly stating that if you feel unable to pay your rates, you may consider that payment is deferred without explanation until further notice. We will issue clarification on unpaid rates later this year, but I do ask you, if you can pay your rates early, please do so. And if you can afford to pay them as you would normally, please do so. In fact, I make a call to everyone on the island, to all businesses and their employees. To get through this crisis, we must all play our part, act together and act responsibly. If your business can still make its taxation and statutory payments, then please make them. If your business is in good health and does not need financial support, please allow room for those who do. And if you don't need to access the financial support packages, please allow us to get them to those who need it most. I know that even with all that is in place, some of you are facing tremendous fear about your future job security and livelihoods that will be causing you anxiety and worry. But we must keep our nerve and focus and our wits about us. The government is doing everything it reasonably can, but both corporate and personal self-discipline and self-responsibility is vital. I have been heartened by the actions that have taken place across the private sector and the community to respond to this crisis. Community support to those who need it is being delivered in a variety of ways, either directly one-to-one or through groups coalescing through social media. I know of a food business working flat out to get food parcels to frontline workers and the over 70s, a construction firm who offered its whole vehicle fleet for national service, a high net worth resident who dispatched a helicopter to retrieve a vital piece of medical equipment from East Midlands Airport, and the significant number of offers of support that have been provided directly to government. This morning, some of our leading businesses and executives came together to launch the Manx Solidarity Fund to help people in need and assist businesses get back on their feet. I thank them for their initiative. The public sector is coming together, the private sector is coming together, and the community is coming together. But let me recap. This island is now looking to suppress this virus to protect our health and save lives. The quicker this is done, the better. And intrinsically linked to this is our economic health and our future job security. We are in a fight to save lives, but we are also in a fight to protect our economy and save jobs. I am asking you to join that fight. Please now focus on staying at home to suppress the virus, protect lives, and protect the economy. Thank you. I'll take questions. And I think the first question is from MTTV, Paul Moulton.
Hello, Mr. Cannan. Obviously, you saw what was said in the UK yesterday, that they're predicting now that this thing could go on for probably 6 months before life gets back to normal. And we'll touch on this over and over again because you've only got so much money in the pot. And since we last talked on this one, you've increased the amount of money that's available. There comes a point when you run out, right? And what happens at that point?
Well, we're lucky to have robust finances in place, Paul, and we are continuing both to monitor our cash flow and to look at plans for the future. So I'm confident that the island will find a way through this. But clearly, the biggest priority for us is to try and suppress this virus as quickly as possible. Now, the sooner everybody across this island engages in that, and from what I can see, almost everybody is, then the quicker we can get to a position where we can start in a controlled manner to release certain sectors back to work. We've taken a very hard approach quite early on in this campaign. I think it's the right approach to send as many people home as we can. And the hope is that in 3 weeks' time, the medics will start advising us that the curve is flattening, that the numbers being affected has dropped significantly, and we can start to release people back to work in a controlled manner. So we will continue to look at the situation, we'll continue to monitor it. We're discussing a variety of options, and clearly part of that is effectively what I might term an exit strategy. But we're in a good position to be able to afford this in the short to medium term.
Well, if you don't answer, I mean, have you got an actual time scale for that money that can be paid out and will have to stop?
Well, I think that I indicated to you last week that we could sustain where we are for about 6 months. Clearly, we don't want to do that. I mean, really what we want to do is get to a position, as I said, where the medics are saying the curve has been suppressed and we can start to get people back to work. I think it's absolutely important that everybody recognises that these two campaigns, if you like, are intrinsically linked in terms of health, staying at home to protect lives, but also staying at home to protect the economy. And if we can come together as quickly as possible to slow this virus down, to suppress it, and even, from an idealistic perspective, get rid of it, we'll be in a much better position to get the economy moving again.
Okay, and everyone's trying to do their thing. I mean, there was this talk about a local distillery wanting to make hand gel, but they wanted the tax taken off it. Did that come off? Things like that? Ways that the Manx economy can actually help you and help us at the same time?
So Paul, I'm going to move on to the next question because I think you've probably exceeded the two questions, given that we got a number of reporters here. But basically, yes, I mean, I've really identified today the direct support that's available. There's a huge number of indirect measures that we've taken as well to try and help people through this. And one of the grant schemes that we've got available is with businesses to help them change their business model, whereby we'll pay 50% of their costs and they will contribute the other 50. So we've done lots of things to try and give business owners, business managers working collegiately with their staff a lot of options to try and find a way through this. So I'm going to move on to the next question now, which is Isle of Man Newspapers and Sam Turton.
Good afternoon, Mr. Cannan. It's a question you said about small and medium businesses will be the ones you're looking to support in sectors that were not included in the previously announced regulations. How are we going to judge what's a small and a medium business on that? Will it be number of employees or will it be its financial output?
Well, so we haven't really, when we've announced these sectors that are eligible for support, we haven't put a huge amount in around the size and scale of the businesses. What I've said today is that we've extended that support now to those affected, to those sectors that we've effectively shut down. And what we're going to do now for other businesses who are not specifically identified as falling within the scope of some of these schemes, then we're working to put together a set of principles by which we can listen to those individual businesses and react accordingly if we believe that they've got a very, very strong case.
And secondly, you said about the fishermen being supported. On our man Meats reports that the price of Manx lamb is plummeting and that farmers are looking for more support. Is that going to be something we're going to have to look at as well in the coming days and weeks?
Well, I'm hoping that you will hear from Lawrence Skelly, the Minister for Enterprise, in the next couple of days, and potentially also Geoffrey Boot from DEFA in terms of where we're positioning ourselves overall with some of these more specific industries. But the fishing industry still remains a vital part of island life. It's something that can be recovered quite quickly, but they have seen a dramatic fall off in terms of their business and their customers. So, today we've put together the framework. You'll hear more details over the next week and probably in coming weeks, as these schemes are rolled out and whether we need to extend them in any way. So can I move now, please, to the BBC? Alex Bell.
Hello, Minister. Hope you're well. A couple of questions. First one about the civil service. Obviously, this presents a massive staffing challenge to every sector on the Isle of Man. Civil service is no small sector. Is there any overall master plan about redeploying civil service workers whose jobs have been affected by this? Are they being moved elsewhere? What's their job security like? Any positions under review?
So, like everybody else, I've asked island businesses to stand by their staff. The government too will stand by its staff. Until we get to the end of this, one doesn't really understand what the longer term implications are. But what I can say for various departments, I know that where possible they are looking to redeploy their staff. But again, like everybody else, we want to get the public sector at home as much as possible. So essential duties, key workers, they're coming to work, and I know that government's working across its departments to make sure that it too can put people back into a position where they are staying at home, and or if necessary then they'll be redeployed into other areas.
And just another one, we had a press release this morning about the establishment of a new Manx Solidarity Fund. I was just wondering what the government's involvement in that will be and where some of that money will be distributed.
Well, this has been set up by the private sector. I'm absolutely delighted that the private sector has decided to sort of coalesce in a centralised way around this. I don't as yet know or understand how they're intending to distribute the money, but I do know that they are hoping that where feasible they can work with the Isle of Man government, but all that's yet to be formally recognised. I acknowledge that they've come together. I'm absolutely delighted that the private sector is doing that. I understand some of our leading businesses are supporting it, and I'm sure in the days to come, I'm sure that they themselves will make it clear to the public how they're going to use the money. But for me, this is not only just with the private sector, but it's also great to see the Isle of Man's values and spirit really coming through across the community in so many ways. And times of trouble like this, you can always, I think, rely on people wherever they are on this island to want to come forward and help out.
Thank you.
Okay, so next is Energy FM, Chris Cave.
Good afternoon, Minister. You say in 3 weeks' time, if the curve starts to flatten, then people can go back to work. But do you have a plan to increase government incomings if the curve doesn't flatten in 3 weeks?
Well, I need to be careful, Chris, in terms of raising expectations. But my message is that from a financial and economic perspective, if we can get to a position in 3 weeks where the medics are telling us that curve is flattened and they're confident that we've got the virus under control and that other measures are in place to successfully allow a controlled return to work, then I would like to see that happen. But we're very much, in terms of where we will be, working on a basis that the measures that are in place at the moment are going to be successful. So that's what I want to, that's what I would like to see happen in the next three to 4 weeks. But as I said, I am slightly in the dark as to how successful things are going to be. But I want us all now to recognise that staying at home isn't just going to help save lives, which is our number one and primary objective, but it is also in a bizarre way helping to protect the economy, because as soon as we've got things under control, as soon as the suppression is in place, as soon as other measures are in place that will successfully allow a return to work, then we want to get people back in a controlled but quick way to the workforce, so that we can get our economy, get our local economy moving again.
I'm sure it's been important for the government response to this pandemic to strike a balance between public health and what you've described as economic health. How strongly did the economic impact influence what measures have been brought in? And likewise, how strongly will it influence when the restrictions are relaxed?
Well, we were forced effectively to bring in immediate support. It's absolutely right. I mean, the measures, a lot of what was happening was actually out with our control anyway, as this pandemic spread across the world, but particularly into the United Kingdom and particularly around our near neighbours. And I think we've reacted properly to the measures that we're now bringing in ourselves. We've recognised that the community needs support. As I said, our first priority at the moment is not economics. Our first priority is saving lives and protecting health. But clearly, in doing that, in undertaking the measures that we are undertaking, I recognise there's huge pressure, not just on public finances, but also on individuals, their jobs and their livelihoods. So for everybody's sake, we must recognise now that everything we're doing for health-wise, protect lives, is also, as I said, protecting the economy. And as I say, the situation is always under review. And in 3 or 4 weeks' time, 5 weeks' time, one will have to stand here and explain to people how we're going to try and exit from the situation that we're in such a manner as they have confidence that it is affordable, but they are also going to be able to try and get back to some normality in terms of getting back to their jobs and getting back to their employment and getting back to their livelihoods.
Thank you.
Okay, next question, Tim Glover at Manx Radio.
Faster, my Minister. Just listening to what you were saying, and I noticed that the Isle of Man now is doing a lot more testing than both like jurisdictions like Jersey and Guernsey, and it's really ramped up. Are you sort of implying that mass testing is going to be a better way forward economically than a prolonged lockdown?
Well, I think that all these aspects that are being developed now in terms of countries looking to develop testing equipment, both to find out if someone's either got the virus or had the virus, vaccine work that is going on, all of it plays a role. And part of, the interest over the next 3 weeks will be to see how quickly these sorts of tests are rolled out and indeed how effective they are. I will be liaising very closely with the Health Minister, clearly obviously at the head of this, the Chief Minister, to understand in the future what role testing might play in terms of getting people back to work. But one would be foolish to not say that testing could have a significant part to play in helping us overcome the problems that we're facing, particularly if we're able to test people and confirm that they're effectively immune from a virus, either they've had a virus, and what role they might play going forward. So there's lots of elements there, but primarily these are conversations that the Health Minister, the Chief Minister need to have, and then we need to sort of interact with them so that we can work out how this might work in terms of letting people back into the workplace.
And secondly, obviously, none of us have been through this, and commend the amount of work that's been done in such a short space of time. And it's really just sort of drilling into the detail, really, to understand, because people at home will be hit by a myriad of information in the last few weeks. What about 0-hour contracts? Sure, they're not required at the moment, quite naturally because of coronavirus, but they may well have been required without the coronavirus hitting our economy. How do people on 0-hour contracts get financial help?
Well, again, there's at least two ways that they can get financial help. First of all, the wage support scheme. So if they're working with those employers who have been determined as being in the affected sectors, then those employers can base support on the work that they've been doing up to this point. In other words, they can effectively try and retain them, even on their 0 hours and even if they're at home. The mirror, the welfare benefit, applies to anybody who finds themselves out of work as a result of COVID-19. So that may also be a measure that they can find support from. And if all else fails, Tim, then obviously they'll fall right back down to our bottom safety net, if you like, which is the current welfare benefits system. So there is support there within the core four pillars, if you like, of the main support, direct support, that will catch, I hope, absolutely everybody in their hour of need during the course of this crisis.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. 3FM, please, Leanne Cook.
Good afternoon, Minister. You've confirmed that the island's banks will offer mortgage repayment holidays for those who are financially struggling. And my question is, and it's something that we've had lots of questions from the general public, what provisions are in place for those who are renting in the private housing sector and perhaps can't pay rent as a direct result of the coronavirus pandemic?
Thanks, Leanne. Well, I made that absolutely clear last week. Nobody will be evicted during the course of this crisis, and clearly we'll review that position as we start to come towards the end point, and when we think we're getting to the end point. Again, similarly to everybody, I mean, there is a certain amount of self-responsibility. I would urge landlords now to work with their tenants and vice versa, tenants to work with their landlords if they can't find the ability to meet their rent demands. But nobody will be evicted during the course of this crisis.
And my second question, going back to the Manx Solidarity Fund, do you think it would be possible to start other similar initiatives to help the government and local businesses during this unprecedented time?
Well, I think it's important that government doesn't get too engaged in promoting one or another. But I mean, I'm absolutely delighted. What seems to be a very strong statement of support has come forward from a number of individuals and businesses. Look, I mean, you know, as I said in my statement, across the community now, there are huge examples, number of examples where people are trying to get help and support to people that they believe in are in need. And, you know, providing people are using their common sense, are maintaining all the rules around social distancing, are thinking carefully about their actions. You know, I'm happy to sit here and say, look, you know, to anybody who's engaged in either specific charitable work or wants to form a community group, you know, good on you, and you know, good luck with it. But please just be careful to make sure that whatever you are doing in any capacity, you make proper and full consideration for the law and for the advice, the government advice that's being given. So thank you. And I think, has anybody else got an urgent pressing question? If not, Tim, you want to ask one more?
Yeah, it's just noticed the report BBC, and it's blindingly obvious, really. But Loganair are saying that any airline saying that it could survive without government help would probably be lying. Are we doing anything to help Loganair with the link to Liverpool, which is, of course, so vital for outpatients?
Well, we have offered, you know, there is a contract in place for that. And that contract has been negotiated with Loganair and is in place. So that falls pretty much within our normal standard terms. And so, yes, effectively, we're helping Loganair continue to provide that service. And of course, you know, alongside these one or two flights, these critical areas that are still being kept going, we obviously have our Isle of Man Steam Packet Company running backwards and forwards, delivering our freight on a daily basis as well. So, yeah, I mean, we're in good shape, I think, and we're pretty clear about our logistics and the need for logistics and what we need to do in terms of just keep a bare minimal service running in the air.
Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you very much.